Have you ever stopped to consider how being too nice might be draining your energy and limiting your true potential? In the rush to please everyone, we often forget something very important: ourselves. How many times have you felt you were always putting others first, only to end the day feeling exhausted, incomplete, or even invisible? Think of the countless times you've accepted a request, done a favor, or agreed with an opinion that wasn't really yours, all to avoid the discomfort of saying no. And what did you gain from it? More often than not, just the weight of emotional fatigue, as deep down, you feel your own desires and feelings are being left behind. Being nice is often seen as a virtue, but we must realize that this doesn't mean abandoning our own well-being to satisfy the world. We need to reflect on whether we're genuinely being kind or simply disregarding our own boundaries out of fear of disappointing others. The truth is, living this way can lead to a profound disconnect with who we truly are. When we spend our lives trying to please others, we end up living to meet external expectations, and over time, this can transform us into a pale version of who we truly are. The impact is significant. Our sense of identity starts to fade, our self-esteem diminishes, and we begin relying on others' approval to feel any sense of worth. It's as if every yes we give is another small piece of our individuality slipping away. Perhaps you've never considered it this way, but this need to please everyone around you might be the root of many emotional struggles you face, such as anxiety and that perpetual feeling of exhaustion. This happens because being too nice often forces us to carry burdens that aren't ours. When we say yes to everything, we absorb the weight of others' expectations and neglect our own needs. This is why recognizing the impact of being excessively nice is so important. It's not about abandoning empathy or kindness, it's about understanding that true balance lies in respecting yourself while caring for others. Being a good person doesn't mean setting aside what you want, but learning to make choices aligned with your own values and priorities. In this way, you can be kind to others and yourself, avoiding the cycle of emotional exhaustion that is so harmful. Think about it. How many times have you automatically put someone else's needs above your own? And how often has this behavior left you feeling unsatisfied or even resentful? These are clear signs that it's time to question things and take control. After all, life is too short to be lived in the shadow of others' expectations. To truly live your truth, you need to make authentic choices that honor not only the world around you, but also the world within you. The fine line between kindness and self-sacrifice. It's common to think that being kind and considerate is always positive, but how far can that kindness go before it turns into self-sacrifice? When we're used to being nice, we often believe that pleasing everyone is an unquestionable virtue. But at some point, our willingness to help and yield becomes a burden we carry without even noticing. And worse, when we cross this fine line, we risk losing ourselves for the sake of others' needs. Think of those times when you accepted an invitation or did a favor you didn't really want to, but you were afraid to disappoint someone by saying no. In these moments, what seemed like an act of kindness may have started to weigh you down, even if only subtly. And this emotional wear is cumulative. When we're always available, always ready to put others' needs above our own, we give up something precious: our time, our energy, and often our own well-being. This constant self-sacrifice traps us in a vicious cycle. As we keep saying yes to others, we become accustomed to saying no to ourselves. And what initially was just an attempt to be helpful becomes a habit, a pattern that distances us from who we really are and from what we want in life. In the long run, this habit can lead us to become dependent on others' approval and recognition. Without realizing it, we place our happiness in the hands of others. It's essential to understand that there is a difference between being a kind person and engaging in self-sacrifice. True kindness involves compassion and empathy, but it doesn't require us to erase ourselves in the process. Being kind means helping, supporting, listening, but also knowing when to say no to protect our own mental and emotional health. Often, the most genuine kindness includes honesty, both with others and with oneself. Saying no respectfully is not an act of selfishness, it's an act of self-care. When you start to build healthy boundaries, you realize you're not being less kind. On the contrary, you're taking care of yourself, and in doing so, you become a more balanced person capable of helping others genuinely and without resentment. Learning to set these boundaries allows you to be more authentic, and your actions come from a place of choice, not obligation. Look at your life and reflect on how many times you felt like you were sacrificing yourself to please someone else. And ask yourself, were all those concessions truly necessary? Did that person really expect this from you, or did you act out of fear of being misunderstood? Often, we worry that by refusing a request, we'll disappoint someone. But in reality, most people have greater respect for those who know how to set their own boundaries. When you learn to say no, you earn others' respect and, more importantly, your own. Understanding this line between kindness and self-sacrifice is a fundamental step toward living a more balanced and fulfilling life. When you stop being too nice and start being authentic and whole, you discover that you can still be kind, but without giving up on yourself. This balance is liberating. After all, true kindness begins with kindness to yourself. The burden of carrying others' expectations. How many times have you found yourself doing something you didn't truly want to do, just to avoid disappointing someone? Or perhaps you felt that constant pressure to appear perfect, always reliable, always present, someone everyone can count on at any moment. This weight, the burden of carrying others' expectations, can become an invisible but very real load. And worse, often it's a burden we impose upon ourselves. When people see us as good and kind, they tend to rely on us for everything. At first, this may feel rewarding. After all, everyone sees us as helpful and always willing to lend a hand. But over time, this image others have of us begins to feel like a cage. We become dependent on external approval and, without realizing it, condition ourselves to meet others' expectations, even if it conflicts with what we want or need. This drive to please others can make us lose sight of who we truly are and what we genuinely want. If we are always focused on what others expect from us, when do we have the time to reflect on our own desires, our dreams, our ambitions? Carrying others' expectations is like living a life driven by external demands, rather than by our own choices and values. One of the greatest challenges is recognizing that we don't have to be everything to everyone. When we strive to be the person who never disappoints, who's always ready to help, we end up neglecting our own needs. Every time we take on the responsibility of fulfilling others' expectations, we ignore a bit of what our own heart truly desires. It's as though, by seeking external approval, we're distancing ourselves from our own essence. Carrying others' expectations can also create a cycle of anxiety and frustration. When we try to please everyone, we place ourselves under constant pressure, and this pressure can generate a persistent fear of making mistakes or being perceived negatively. What many don't realize is that, more often than not, the people around us don't demand as much from us as we think. Many of these expectations are projections we create in our own minds, believing we need to act a certain way to be loved and accepted. To free yourself from this weight, it's essential to recognize that you don't have to live up to everything others expect of you. No one, no matter how kind they are, can carry everyone's expectations without becoming exhausted. Remember that by living according to others' expectations, you are giving up your own power of choice, your freedom to be who you truly are. And this isn't healthy for anyone. By letting go of these expectations, you begin to understand that true happiness comes from within, from your own satisfaction with who you are, not from an image of perfection maintained to please others. Learn to prioritize what matters to you, to focus on what brings meaning to your life. You'll find that the people who genuinely care for you will respect your choices, even if they don't exactly align with their expectations. Free yourself from the weight of others' expectations and allow yourself to live more lightly, authentically, and freely. After all, the best version of yourself isn't the one that pleases everyone, but the one that reflects your true essence and your own dreams. How to learn to say no without guilt. Saying no can be one of the biggest challenges for those who are used to being nice all the time. From an early age, we're taught to be agreeable, to avoid conflicts, to think of others before ourselves. However, this difficulty in refusing requests, even when we don't want to or can't meet them, is often accompanied by guilt. It feels as if, by saying no, we're letting others down or being selfish. But is it really wrong to establish our limits? The Bible offers us deep wisdom on boundaries and authenticity. In Matthew 5 verse 37, Jesus says, "Let your yes be yes, and your no, no, anything beyond this comes from the evil one." This verse serves as a powerful reminder that our words and choices should be genuine and consistent. Learning to say no isn't a lack of kindness or commitment to others, it's an act of sincerity and integrity with ourselves and others. When we say yes merely to please, without truly being willing or ready, we are being disloyal both to those who asked and to ourselves. The practice of no is actually a path to inner peace and self-care. When we say no honestly, with respect and compassion, we're acknowledging our limitations and protecting our emotional health. Imagine that each time you say yes without really wanting to, a part of your energy is drained, leaving you more exhausted and less able to meet your own needs and those of the people who truly matter. Setting boundaries, then, isn't about selfishness, it's about responsibility to oneself. Fear of others' reactions is one of the main reasons we avoid saying no. But when we silence ourselves to please others, we begin to build resentment, which over time transforms into bitterness and frustration. Saying no with calmness is an act of self-love, and those who truly care about you will understand and respect your boundaries. Often, this honesty even serves as an inspiration to those around you, showing that it's possible to be kind without losing oneself. Start by practicing no in small situations, with a calm and respectful tone of voice. Be firm but not rude, clear but not aggressive. The important thing is to feel at peace when giving your response, knowing that you're being true to yourself. And remember, you don't need to over-explain. Saying no, I can't right now, or no, thank you is enough. The simplicity of this act demonstrates maturity and confidence, showing that you respect others but also respect yourself. In saying no with courage and compassion, you're following the biblical teaching to be clear and honest in your words. This strengthens your character, making it clear that your actions come from a place of truth, not obligation. After all, a life lived fully and balanced requires choices that respect both others' needs and your own. Saying no when necessary is one of the first steps to living with more authenticity and freedom, making space for what truly matters in your journey. Accepting that we don't need everyone's approval. Seeking approval from others is natural. We all want to be accepted and feel like we belong. However, when the need for approval becomes excessive, we stop living our truth and start shaping our actions, words, and choices solely to please others. This constant search for acceptance can be exhausting, placing us in a kind of emotional prison where our self-worth depends on others' opinions. To overcome this need, it's essential to understand that true inner peace comes from knowing who you are and being at peace with your choices, rather than aligning with everyone else's expectations. In the scriptures, we find a profound teaching about seeking God's approval over that of others. In Galatians 1 verse 10, the Apostle Paul reminds us, "Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings, or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ." This passage encourages us to focus on what has eternal and genuine value instead of pursuing fleeting, superficial recognition. When we strive to please everyone around us, we lose sight of what truly matters to us and our spiritual lives. The reality is that we cannot control others' opinions, and constantly seeking approval only pulls us away from our authenticity and, often, from our values. Moreover, when you let go of the need to please everyone, you experience a transformative freedom. You realize that you can be honest with yourself and others without apologizing for being who you are. Accepting that not everyone will approve of your choices is an act of maturity and self-acceptance. After all, diverse thoughts and opinions are a natural part of life, and it's impossible to please everyone. This process may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if you've always been accustomed to seeking approval. But little by little, you'll realize that by acting in line with your values, you'll build a life that's more aligned with your true essence. By freeing yourself from this need, you'll discover that your self-esteem no longer depends on what others think, but on your own understanding of what is right and meaningful to you. Remember that the approval that truly matters is living in alignment with your truth, knowing that, in the end, your satisfaction and inner peace are far more valuable than any fleeting praise or criticism from others. Recognize your worth independently of external acceptance, and trust that by staying true to yourself, you're building a full, authentic, and deeply meaningful life. Rediscovering your own voice and courage. When you decide to stop being too nice and start living authentically, something remarkable happens. You rediscover your voice and the courage to be who you truly are. This process can be transformative, as it sheds the fear of rejection and opens the door to a life that's more meaningful and faithful to your values. It's as if a new version of you emerges, a version that's stronger, more confident, and more determined to live according to your own principles. The Bible teaches us that we were created with a unique purpose, and that purpose cannot be fully realized if we're bound by others' expectations. In 2 Timothy 1 verse 7, we find an inspiring passage, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and self-discipline." This verse reminds us that we were not made to live in fear or in pursuit of others' expectations. We were created with power, love, and balance to make our own decisions with confidence and courage. Rediscovering your own voice requires reconnecting with what truly matters to you. Perhaps, after years of saying yes when you wanted to say no, you've lost sight of what you genuinely want for your life. Now is the time to allow yourself to listen to your intuition, reflect on your dreams, and open yourself to what brings true satisfaction and peace to your heart. This journey to reconnect with your authenticity demands courage, especially since, by no longer pleasing everyone, you will inevitably face criticism and perhaps even misunderstanding. But instead of viewing these reactions as negative, see them as part of your journey of self-discovery and resilience. Remember, it's impossible to please everyone, but living according to your truth is a powerful and liberating choice. Over time, you'll realize that by being honest with yourself and making decisions that reflect who you truly are, your self-respect will grow. This confidence, in turn, inspires others to do the same, creating a positive cycle of authenticity and honesty in your relationships. People around you begin to see and value the real you, and you start attracting those who respect and appreciate your authenticity. Living with courage and integrity doesn't mean abandoning kindness, it means using it in a balanced way that honors you as well. When God gave us a spirit of power, He called us to be steadfast in our faith and values, to use our voice for good, and to be responsible for our happiness and fulfillment. Thus, rediscovering your voice and courage is also an act of faith, as you trust that you are being guided by something greater and truer than others' approval. May this journey of self-discovery and authenticity be a way to honor yourself and the purpose for which you were created. We've come to the end of this journey about the power of being true to yourself, balancing kindness with authenticity, and living a life that reflects who you truly are. We've learned that being too nice can distance us from our purpose and trap us in a life of others' expectations. When we start saying no without guilt, seeking God's approval above that of others, and rediscovering our own voice, we make room for a fuller, braver, and more authentic life. If this message resonated with you, please give this video a like. That simple gesture helps support the channel, allowing this message to reach more people who need to hear these words. Also, your comments are greatly appreciated. Share your experiences, doubts, or personal stories about the journey to authenticity. This engagement not only helps the channel grow, but also builds a supportive community where everyone can learn and grow together. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight. Proverbs 3 verses 5 to 6. May this trust guide us on our journey, bringing peace and courage to be who we truly are. Until next time, and may God bless you.